Welcome back. You're watching Bazaar Morning Call here on CNBC-TV18. Well, plenty of stocks to discuss. Prakash Diwan joins us to help us out with just that. Hi, Prakash. I wanted to ask you about this deal between these two auto majors. That's Minda Corp, which we were just discussing, hasn't done anything in terms of a stock price move or even in terms of, results for the last many years. And Precall, now they're saying that they've got 15%, but it's just a financial investment. How would you read that? As a shareholder, would you be disappointed? Or would you be thinking there's a bigger plan here on? Maybe they somehow get to around the 26% and then, in fact, they push from there on. Your view?
Good morning, Nigel. So, I think as we kind of see this entire transaction unraveling, it would start kind of pointing to a different direction. And, this 15% could start off as a financial investment. And possibly, the fact that there is a significantly large owner, a private equity fund that owns equity in Precall, that could kind of, swing the way of Minda to kind of, get better control or more control of the business. But, the kind of hostility that's very clearly evident, the undertone of the Precall management, the defiance to this entire idea of doing work together, is a big deterrent for any shareholder. I mean, if I were to be a Minda shareholder and my company is going ahead and buying something which is not willing to sell, and somebody is not willing to sell, and then trying to make some meaning out of it, it's going to be complex. So they have a balance sheet which allows them to do certain things. And the other thing you need to understand, the backdrop of auto ancillary business is that unless you have scale and you are one of the top 2-3 players in that space globally, you really don't have that kind of pricing power. I mean, if you are one of those down the chain, OEMs can push you into such wafer thin margins that it actually becomes very difficult. And that's precisely what's happened with some of the Indian companies which have gone ahead and acquired businesses to just leverage on scale. You've seen some very successful businesses like Motherson Sumi as a family keeps on doing that. You have Suprajit that did it so well. So, there have been instances in the past which could have encouraged Minda to cover up its lackluster performance and probably scale up. But I'm not very excited in terms of looking at buying any of these at this point in time.
Okay, in fact, Nirmal Bang downgraded Minda Corp this morning, and they talk about how they are concerned about the capital allocation strategy of Minda Corp. The fact that they have utilized this money to buy stake, which is just a financial stake, and now they're foregoing the interest income. They are also perhaps looking at weaker return ratios, and this is an EPS dilutive deal. So they have downgraded Minda Corp this morning with a target price of 224, which is still above the current market price, but they're quite cautious over there. I wanted to also ask you about Bharti and the latest that we've seen. I mean, Rima was just talking about how the entry-level tariff has been hiked in 2 more circles now. At this 780, 800 rupee price, is the risk-reward favorable for investors?
Sonia, so, interestingly, what Bharti is doing is it's kind of finally fired the first salvo in terms of testing waters out, dipping their feet in terms of how, this would kind of impact. And then remember, the choice of these circles is very interesting. These are circles where they have much more linearity in terms of, the impact of the price on the demand. So it's got a very clear indication that they would want to gauge how this works before rolling this out in some of the other circles. Interestingly, if this goes off well, you'll probably see a slew of price hikes, a rollout in the other circle very aggressively. Now, does that make only Bharti interesting, but it also paves the way for Jio to follow suit, right? I mean, there's no reason why Jio, with its far more superior coverage and service bouquet, cannot do that. So it's going to be interesting in terms of this thing. So everybody's going to look at how this is accepted in terms of this thing. Does it dent demand in any way, or but this is right now, it's just about 1.5% in terms of the creative value, but it has a far more bigger ramification. So to answer your question specifically, does Bharti make sense to buy? Well, it does. There is a long-term secular trend where, as the number 2 player, it continues to offer great value as a pure service provider. But, I still like Jio, and hence I like Reliance because of other optionalities that combine. When you buy a Reliance stock, you're buying into some great businesses at great prices. So, I would still prefer that. But yes, Bharti might start looking up, and then you could start getting upgrades because the visibility of revenue and earnings will finally start falling in place.
Okay, all right. The stock has not done much actually in the last 6 to 12 months. It's been pretty range bound. I mean, it's had its fair share of ups and downs, as you can see on the chart. But 12 months, I think it's a 10% gain that Bharti has seen. Just stay on, Prakash. What are your thoughts on KEC International as well? We have the management joining us now. Yesterday, the company announced order wins worth over 3,000 crores across its businesses. With these orders, KEC International's year-to-date order intake stands at a record level of over 18,500 crores. To discuss more on these order wins, Vimal Kejriwal, who's the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at KEC, joins us now. Mr. Kejriwal, good